Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls. Now guys, we are covering everything. By the time you watch this whole video, you will understand the entire story of Boruto's fate and the Kara organization. We have timestamped the video for your benefit, but if you truly want to understand Boruto's story, you must watch the video entirely, as the goals of Kara changed over time with the ongoing developments of the story. Those of us that are up to date, we know Kara's mission ultimately became to create a God Otsutsuki using code. Boruto has to use his pure eye and other abilities to stop this from happening, otherwise it's completely game over for Earth. So first off, we got the one and only, and I know a lot of you like to say it with me, Jigen!
Jigen. Said his name once and I'ma say it again. Jigen, 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 Jigen. And I can stop at any time, you just tell me when.
Jigen is the leader of the Kara organization. He is the most feared member of Kara by far, but heavily respected by most of the group for his strength and ambition. Jigen has promised everyone working under him a granted wish of their choosing, which seems to be the driving motivation most of them hold on to. But for some members, one in particular, Jigen is worshipped and admired as a godlike being. His name is Code, whom eventually we will explain. All Kara members have the Roman numerals on their faces, which can be read as inner team and outer team when broken into individual kanji. This is to mark who is an inner and who is an outer member, so there is no confusion. Inner members of Kara normally stay inside their hideout, awaiting missions from Jigen himself, whilst outers, people like Ao, work from outside the base. Outers are individuals who support Kara's ideology from the outside, and complete missions are requested by the inners, acting as conspirators, sleeper agents, and spies. Members include politicians and merchants, some of whom actively work to undermine the rule of the daimyo and the Kage of the said country. Outers are also partly responsible for the widespread development of scientific ninja tools, as the outers include engineers and scientists from various villages. They are able to significantly develop and improve the tools before bringing them back to the Kara organization, leading them to possess the latest technology and engineering. This explains why Amado has the latest of technology, and Kara's control isn't only in one country, but actually the whole world. This is why Boruto has to save the entire world, since Jigen learned the ways of humans and is using them for his own interest to create a divine chakra fruit. Jigen has the number 4 marked underneath his left eye, and some of you might have realized it by now, but Jigen kind of seems and looks like a monk. If you thought this, you'd be half right. He does look like a monk, yes, but he isn't a monk. In fact, he's not even Jigen. I'm not even joking, fam. This dude ain't even who he says he is, but he's an imposter. Okay, so to explain what I mean here, I'm gonna have to go way back into the history of the Naruto universe, before even the earliest point marked in the story up to this point, around 1000 to 2000 years in the past.
God damn!
So, remember the whole backstory of Kage Otsutsuki? How she was the mother of all chakra on earth and had 2 sons and blah 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 yada 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 yada? Well, before that, she and another Otsutsuki came to earth to harvest a god tree and attain its chakra fruit, so that they could provide for the main branch of the family and clan from another world. This other Otsutsuki was named Isshiki Ōtsutsuki. Kage was a low-ranking Otsutsuki and his partner, and thus had to be chosen to be sacrificed for the cultivation of the divine tree. However, she didn't like that idea. She rebelled once they got to earth and attacked Isshiki whilst his guard was down, causing him to suffer severe damage to the point where he was on the brink of death. Isshiki would have died, but just in the nick of time, he stumbled upon a monk named Jigen 1000 years ago and managed to take over his body. Jigen is still technically in there, by the way, and every once in a great while his personality will seep through, but for the most part his consciousness is suppressed by that of Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, and Jigen's body is used as a puppet, a temporary vessel for his survival. Isshiki in his miniature form literally is living inside of Jigen's brain, stopping him from functioning as a normal human being. Whilst controlling him as such, Isshiki also placed his karma onto him, turning Jigen into an Otsutsuki vessel over the 1000 years that passed, slowly but surely transferring his data onto him. Jigen really being an Otsutsuki is why certain members of the Kara worship him. him, said members see the Otsutsuki the way the Otsutsuki see themselves, as superior beings that have transcended all other life in the universe and are equivalent to gods. Because of this, Jigen is obviously very powerful, as he is a high-ranking Otsutsuki. We all saw what someone like Momoshiki was able to do against Naruto and Sasuke, right? Well, imagine that, but amplified. Isshiki is by far the strongest Otsutsuki we have come across. We know this because he was able to completely dominate in his fight against Naruto and Sasuke in chapter 37 and 38, and that was whilst his full power was suppressed in an incomplete vessel. Yet Naruto and Sasuke were being serious since they admitted it themselves. I am planning on doing a full-scale video explaining how strong Isshiki Ōtsutsuki was in a collaboration video with Naruto Explained for the future. So you must make sure to hit the notification bell for the channel and smash the like button to let me know you are interested in such content, please. Isshiki had mastered space-time transportation, using his karma to go to entire different dimensions, as we saw in chapter 37 when he tried to trap Naruto with no way of getting back to his home. Obviously, Sasuke could also use space-time ninjutsu and kicked him like a badass savage, which is when the fight began, right? Sasuke can only use space-time ninjutsu around 4 times a day, whilst Isshiki seems to have no problem with it due to being Otsutsuki. Secondly, as we see here, he can absorb ninjutsu, even something as powerful as a Rasengan from the 7th Hokage, which we have to presume is a more powerful jutsu than a regular person. He continues to attack with the opening he created after absorbing it. He can also use Fuin Jutsu, able to seal away even the likes of Naruto inside. Only Isshiki himself is capable of breaking the seal, and cracking it will only destroy whatever is inside, so no one can risk it. Thirdly, he can impale his enemies with black rods, without them even being aware, by shrinking them and any non-living thing down to a microscopic size, and then growing them in an instant, using a special ninjutsu that, as far as we know, only he can use. These rods and anything else he has are sent from a pocket dimension he has access to into the world for him to use whenever he wants. But what's even crazier is that he can shrink himself. He used this to his advantage a number of times, shrinking down and then growing again to land a surprise attack. He can also absorb jutsu while shrunken down, meaning anything you try and throw at him is meaningless even in this form. However, there is one weakness, and for me to explain that, you would have to watch the video till the Kashin Koji part. Anyway, when he's absorbing ninjutsu, he's vulnerable, as he can't move quickly during those moments, leaving him open to attack from either a fellow teammate or a shadow clone. But despite that, his physical strength is immense, even earning the acknowledgement of the 7th and the strongest Hokage when they exchange fists. Sasuke mentioned that within one kick, Jigen was able to destroy Susanoo and kick him out of it, which would be impossible for any other person in the world to even achieve at this point. His speed is also off the charts, being able to disappear in time to dodge an attack from Naruto himself and appear behind him. To this day, Jigen has come closer than anyone to killing these two legends, and the only reason he didn't is because he chose not to himself. If he really wanted to, he could have killed them, as we know from chapter 38. This is all incredibly impressive and kind of terrifying, but it's not all there is to this guy. He has a true form of sorts, as we first saw in chapter 47 when Kashin Koji forced it out of him. This was the first time we really saw what Isshiki looked like, and he spared no time showing us what he could do. So let's get into it. For starters, we know he has the Byakugan, only in his left eye. This power was inaccessible to Jigen. This has all the basic functionality of a usual Byakugan, like seeing chakra points and whatnot, but there are certain things his Byakugan can't see, like the underground Black Ops facility that are protected against enhanced visual jutsu. And then in his right eye is the new dojutsu that, from what we have seen so far, no one but him has ever had. It has no name, but it's what allows him to use his shrinking ninjutsu called Sukuna Hikuna.
Nope.
I definitely butchered that. Hukuna Matata, that's what I've been calling it, so I'm gonna stick with that. Anyway, as well as this jutsu, he has a separate technique called Daikoko 10 that used to restore the shrunken objects into the pocket dimension that I mentioned earlier. He can also summon back at full size whenever the hell he wants. In his Otsutsuki form, he's proven to be far too much for Naruto and Sasuke at full power. Remember, even in his Jigen form, he was already overpowering them. In fact, we can see in the fight, Naruto and Sasuke do not even land one kick or punch on him. They are just flies to him, right? Now again, I'm gonna cover this video separately on how strong he was, so you make sure to hit the notification bell. The only thing that could possibly pose a threat to Isshiki was Naruto's final form, which he wasn't aware of until this recent arc called Baryon Mode. We have explained this form in depth, by the way, in detail, so if you truly want to understand how strong was Naruto's Baryon Mode, you must watch the video being displayed to you right now. I'll put it in the pinned comment for you already. This form was enough to drive Isshiki to the brink of death, where Kawaki ended him through big brain no jutsu, killing Isshiki Ōtsutsuki once and for all. R.I.P. to Jigen! You know what I'm saying? We missed the guy. I missed him. Make sure to buy Jigen merch. But goodbye, 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 good friend. We'll see you another time. Goodbye, Jigen. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Now we have come to Delta. After the 4th Great Ninja War, she joined the Kara organization as an inner member. In the anime, Delta was scouting for little children like a creep in a village for them to use as Jigen's vessel, which led to Kawaki being bought from his father. These events were years before the current story, and this goes to show that Delta was in Kara from day one. Delta being an inner member means it only makes sense that she has incredibly powerful abilities. She has the Roman numeral for 1 tattooed on her head, and just her presence alone makes Kawaki tremble in fear, even making the boy sweat. She's not even scared of the 7th Hokage Naruto, the OG, you know what I'm saying? Now, even though this chick is super thick, don't get it twisted, it's not real. You're simping for something that isn't even human. Wait, actually, I don't think that affects or stops any of you, does it? Oh, okay, well, everyone, Delta is more robot than Android 18 from Dragon Ball. Anyway, the reason Delta isn't scared of Naruto is because she has extensively modified high-tech shinobi wear by Amado to the point of becoming a full cyborg. We don't even know for sure if Delta has a real body, as she can be seen uploading her consciousness to replica bodies that are stored amongst many others. She does this by deploying a drone that holds her consciousness within. This drone cannot be detected with chakra as it doesn't use any chakra itself. She flies the drone back to the headquarters and plugs herself into a new body. She has 3 bodies, hence the name Delta. This drone is so OP and allows her to infiltrate villages whenever she wants and spies on things pretty easily. The drone can also track invisible targets, such as the invisible Rasengan Boruto threw at her in chapter 32. She can modify her legs for high-speed travel, creating practical rocket legs similar to those used by the Asura Path. Her eyes can absorb and release ninjutsu, as she did with Naruto's Rasengan. However, we are told she has difficulty absorbing more complex techniques like the Sage Art, Lava Release, Rasen Shuriken. Her modifications make her OP and give her really useful tools like the anti-Naruto Talk no Jutsu. This girl even has the strength to punch Naruto and make him bleed. She could also create several wood-like weapons from her legs that are strong enough to pierce even the defense of Naruto's 6th Path Sage Mode Shroud, fam. But let's be honest, Naruto wasn't even trying and he admits it himself. You know what I'm saying? First time we see Delta is during the Owl arc, where she and the other inner members were called by Jigen due to the vessel Kawaki gone missing. Koji went to retrieve Kawaki alone, but hearing this, Delta grew impatient and wary of Koji, deciding to go along with him to inspect Kawaki from afar. They later went to the Hidden Leaf village gates, where Koji told her to wait and went in without triggering the alarms. She felt as if he just wanted to get away from her and tried to trick her. In anger, she decided to go in herself. She deployed her drone from her bag and went in and found Kawaki training with Boruto. She got spotted by Ino and the barrier team and said, nah, forget this shit, and launched herself to Kawaki and Boruto with her modified legs that could be used as jetpacks. What she didn't know was that Naruto was there as well. She demands Kawaki to be returned, but Kawaki recognizes this bitch and tells Naruto, "Rah, she's from Inner and she's crazy and she has powers, you should be wary of her." Now this is where shit hits the fan. She begins using shinobi wear and launched sneak attacks and sucked up Naruto's Rasengan. She could suck up something else if you know what I mean. You thirsty guys out here have no chill.
Here we go. Hold on, Sticks. Here she comes, Sticks.
Delta pinned Naruto down and she activated her chakra cloak, pulling a Una reverse card and threw the absorbed Rasengan at Naruto. Later on in the fight, noticing that Naruto is playing about, he's too OP, she used her ace up her sleeve and tried to special beam cannon his ass. Delta's destruction beam is capable of overpowering the strongest of regenerative abilities. This is why Kawaki does not regrow his arm after his selfless act of saving Himawari and has to use Naruto's later on in the story. In their fight, Naruto realizes she can't absorb any more chakra as the fight continues, and her eye malfunctions and makes her lose her connection with the drone. Her body self-destructs, making Naruto and the gang retreat. She took the drone back to Kara and plugged her drone and got a new body. Furious at her defeat, she wants to get revenge, but the Inners mock her and Jigen silences their discussion. She told Jigen that Kashin Koji let the events play out to gain more info and that Boruto has a legitimate karma of his own. Later on in the story, around chapter 44, she then discovers Amado and Koji attempting to leave without Jigen's permission, but she gets shut down, literally. Amado turns her off and then leaves. Later, Amado states that he turned her off for good, but we have a suspicion that Code will reactivate her, making her loyal to him via the knowledge Eida will provide to override the shutdown sequence Amado created. Delta will join Code's Kara. Moving on, we now have Jiraiya. I mean Kashin Koji. Yes, that's right, the clone of everyone's favorite sensei. The character every hater will say, "Wah, he ruined Jiraiya's legacy." But I don't think so. I'm not going to beat around the bush here. This dude is one of the gems of the Boruto story. He offers a familiar yet unique vibe to the series which not many other characters do. Although initially we saw Kashin Koji as the second member of Kara with the symbol of number 2, which also can be viewed as sage markings. With Kashin Koji being created by Amado, he lives to be nothing more than a tool to achieve their goal, keeping emotions at bay and purely living for the job at hand. A very OG way of looking at the life of shinobi, which hasn't been explored since Zabuza. We have to remember Boruto revived this mentality with Kashin Koji along with Ao, one of the outer companions of Kara, giving us an idea that Boruto will let Kashin Koji realize the way of shinobi, that he isn't a tool. Naruto realized that he's very familiar and feels like Jiraiya, so he is probably going to address this situation too and not be cool with the idea that, bruh, why is my sensei a tool named Kashin Koji? This dude is human! The initial sole purpose of Kashin Koji's existence is to aid Amado in his end goal of defeating Isshiki and removing the Karma Seal, a mission passed on to him with the illusion that success was guaranteed. Yet it was revealed to us that in truth Kashin Koji was nothing more than bait to weaken the Otsutsuki. However, unbeknowingly to Amado at the time of making this video, Kashin Koji managed to just barely escape with his life by summoning a toad despite his critical condition. Talking of toad summonings, let's get into his jutsu and powers real quick. As you'd imagine with the clone of Jiraiya and a Kara inner, he is a beast when it comes to combat ability. Many of his abilities actually come from his originators such as the Rasengan, toad summonings and also Sage Mode, but he has much more to his arsenal than just those. He's as stealthy as an assassin could be and was able to completely hide his presence from Viktor despite having killing intent. Another inner member couldn't even detect him. He also has traversed throughout Konoha without being noticed. That is ridiculous. His taijutsu ability is nothing to laugh at either, managing to counter Konohamaru's punches whilst also hitting him with his next attack at the same time in secret, showing he is able to think one step ahead of his opponent at all times. My man put Konohamaru on fire, beat him in 5 seconds fam. He even managed to hold his own against a reincarnated Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, along with being able to actually kill Jigen and a weakened Isshiki. Yes, our dude literally burned him alive, forcing Isshiki to reincarnate into a lesser vessel. However, you must keep in mind that Jigen was heavily drained after his fight against Naruto and Sasuke, and was less than 10% of his power according to Amado, as he stated it in chapter 43, whereas Jigen was around 100% of his power whilst facing Naruto and Sasuke in chapter 38, and this was due to Jigen, before the fight began, he absorbed all the chakra from the Jubi. Oh, by the way, we also learned that Code is stronger than Naruto and Sasuke combined, as he is mentioned to be even stronger than Jigen, to the point where Amado had to give him limiters. So that means, logically speaking, for the power scaling to make sense, Kashin Koji is around 20% of the power level level of Jigen and around 5 times weaker than Code. Otherwise, how did he beat Jigen at 10% power so easily? So I'm gonna say he's around 20%. With Naruto and Sasuke's heavy nerfs, I believe Kashin Koji will be a very good ninja and weapon for them to use. Not as a tool, by the way, but as an ally. If you want to know how strong Naruto and Sasuke are after their nerfs, that video will also be in the pinned comment and is being displayed to you right now. I highly recommend it if you're interested in knowing how strong are these dudes now. As we all know, the Naruto franchise often uses strategy to defeat opponents, and Koji uses chakra, so he can still train and get stronger and match their power. It's not out of question that a weaker opponent in raw power can defeat a foe. Boruto still has a chance to defeat Code and this god. Now, during Kashin Koji's fight with the reincarnated Isshiki, he displayed incredible resilience, being able to survive having been crushed by multiple pillars and having his arm and torso destroyed, all while still having chakra left over to summon his gateway vehicle, of course. Kashin Koji's Sage mode even manages to surpass his biological counterpart Jiraiya. It's a perfect balance of chakra and natural energy. We see this in action in chapter 48, where Kashin Koji was able to catch a strike from Isshiki thanks to his enhanced sensory perception. One of his most overpowered abilities, however, are the true flames of Samidi. They are completely indistinguishable flames, similar to that of Amaterasu. But what's interesting about Kashin Koji and these flames in particular is actually their origin story. The flames of Samidi is from an old Chinese novel called A Journey to the West. In this, a young red boy, aka the Boy Sage King, tried to defeat Wukong by using inextinguishable flames. And I'm sure you guys don't need me to tell you this, but there's similarities here between Kashin Koji and the duel he had with Jigen. The Sage King is self-explanatory considering his connections to Jiraiya and his perfect Sage mode. But looking more into this fight with Wukong, we can see the parallels with his fight and Jigen's. The inextinguishable fire used on Wukong, called the Samhidi fire, leaves him in a state of near death before having to call upon the power of the Bodhisattva Guanyin. I definitely butchered that, but it's an almighty deity of mercy and compassion. In chapter 47, we see Jigen left dead due to the flames, forcing the supreme deity Isshiki resurrecting in his place. Whatever the story has planned for him, we shall wait and see, but perhaps seeing the truth of what living as a tool is, being nothing more than a sacrificial pawn, it may make Kashin Koji think for himself and confront Amado about the situation he put him in. Regardless, we all want more from him, possibly being in Boruto's training. Now let's move on to Deepa. And no, that's not a pun, this guy's name is actually Deepa, and what the frick is that? Anyway, Deepa is an anime original inner, and when we first heard about him, we were instantly worried he was gonna be just like Isshiki Ōtsutsuki. Oh wait, oh shit, I've said his name again.
Spoiling myself.
So for starters, this dude is an absolute nutcase. Like, the more you think about how crazy this guy is, the crazier he becomes. First off, he's a cannibal. So yes, this dude likes to eat people. And second off, he switches from killing masses of people for absolutely no reason to showing mercy on someone who can't fight back at random. So you really never know if you're gonna survive just being around this guy. And for having a reputation like that, he'd have to be pretty powerful to justify being so terrifying. So is he?
Nope.
Deepa does not have much of a backstory because the anime didn't provide him one. So let's just explain the story so far and the powers he had. Deepa is incredibly fast and specializes in close range combat. So naturally, he's pretty damn good at taijutsu, as he's been known to be able to take down his enemies with just one strike, and no one remembers his name after they are defeated by him because he's so cold-blooded he'll kill you instantly. instantly. This gave him a nasty reputation around the whole world. Deepa enjoyed trying as many different flavors as he could in the world. That was his main objective and why he joined Kara. His greatest wish was to taste the fruit of the god tree itself, which he described having the purest flavor in the world. He relished in the fear and pain he could inflict on others, even toying with them, such as pretending to be affected by his enemies' attacks, giving them false hope, only to end his facade and enjoy the expressions of confusion and terror of his opponents afterwards. He was basically a budget Hisoka. He cared very little about the people's views of him. He openly admitted that he knew his allies had little trust in him. He didn't really care about the Kara organization at all, only that he wanted to work with Viktor to create the god tree and get the divine tree fruit. He helped Viktor in achieving this by searching for, of course, Hashirama's cells. This dude's cells cannot take a break, and it's even in Boruto. He obtained the Hashirama cell by stealing it. This is how Team 7 and Boruto were involved with Deepa, because they had the mission to retrieve the Hashirama cell and investigate who has stolen it. Deepa ends up with the cell, beats Team 7, makes them have a training day and self-reflect, gives it to Viktor, the tree ends up getting born, and then Bob's your uncle. Team 7 comes for round 2 and the bitch loses. Deepa defeated a Kenjutsu user like Omoe with ease, despite the fact that this dude had 2 experienced professional swordsmen on his side backing him up. Deepa has access to a wide array of ninjutsu, including the Yin release, which he used to project an image of himself to communicate from a distance, because social distancing is important right now, you know what I'm saying? The technique he's most famous for is his ability to control the molecular bonding of the carbon that he's exposed to. He can properly rearrange it in his body, allowing his skin to turn a dark color and become reflective like metal. He is able to do this to any part of his body. Yes, I do mean any part of his body. That includes his pee-pee. This ability isn't just for show though, this protects him from almost anything, making him resilient and able to endure lightning style jutsu and block pretty much any blade or chakra enhanced attack with his bare hands. He even tanked a normal Rasengan to the stomach and laughed about it. You heard me right, not even the Rasengan could phase this dude. That's what pushed Boruto to create the compressed Rasengan. But there's more, he can also manipulate any raw carbon that's around him, shaping it into a wide variety of different shapes and sizes. He can create and control an insane number of carbon projectiles in any number of forms all at once. This was the main attack he used in every battle, like a turret from League of Legends, just standing there blasting this attack. He is even able to condense his projectiles for even more impactful and destructive attacks, capable of at least destroying a huge iron sand wall, as we saw when he engaged in battle with Shinki briefly. His ace in the hole, however, is the combination of both sides of his ability, the defensive and offensive. This encases his entire body in a shell of carbon, one that's almost unbreakable, or at least that's what we thought, until, you know, a bunch of 12-year-olds went and shattered it into pieces in the span of 1 episode. Yeah, that's right, it took them 1 episode, 3 12-year-old getting, no Joni, no Naruto, no Sasuke, no Orochimaru, who was there mind you. They made this guy look like trash. This guy even said, "This isn't my final form," and activate his new carbon transformation where he evolved and stuff. But yeah, he tanked the Rasengan and lost.
Know your fucking place, trash.
Deepa was an inner member and he had a tattoo just like the rest. He was working with Viktor in his plan. They were working secretly, betraying Jigen and Kara's orders. We don't actually know why Deepa was doing that, in fact. I don't seem to remember, nor do I care at this point. And I don't think you guys do either.
We don't care.
So I'll be passing the video on to Yusuf now, and he will cover all the remaining members and how Kara's objective changed, involving the creation of a god Otsutsuki through code.
Okay, so let's start with Viktor, explaining how his character connects to Kara and the extra lore he taught us about the infrastructure of the organization. But first, I need to point out that Viktor is a classic case of a character who suffers from Boruto Manga syndrome. Like, he was only featured in 2 or so chapters. I'd say about 80% have probably forgotten this granddad even existed. But thankfully the anime came in and was like, "Come with us, we can offer you more." And thus, a somewhat interesting character was born. All we knew from the manga was he was old, lost the vessel, somehow got killed despite having great regeneration abilities. That's literally it. My man got like a handful of panels to his name and was like, yeah, that's a wrap. However, as I said, the anime does a bit more justice to his character, as we learned a bit more about Viktor's past, like the fact that he was a survivor of the 4th Great Ninja War. Viktor took what he saw during that tragic time to help benefit those that are less fortunate in town, stricken by poverty despite the 4 great nations binding together in one friendly alliance. These cities came on leaps and bounds in the terms of technological advancements. Konoha is a full-on city now with trains, video games, fast food, and Zoom calls. But us as the viewers are oblivious to the fact that there are still those less fortunate out there. We are all in our own little bubble, completely unaware that other people might be suffering for our gain, and that's something Viktor strives to fix by offering healthcare to the people affected by these wars, helping with prosthetic limbs, and one day hoping to provide longevity to the human race. Or at least that's what he'd tell you. Instead, he just wanted it all for himself.
NANI?
Yes, you guys, he wasn't no anti-hero. I don't know what you guys were even expecting. In fact, he was no different to those people he blamed. He was worse, showing no compassion to those he was supposed to care for, ultimately sacrificing them all to gain the power of an artificial god tree with the help of Deepa and Kara technology. And to even make it worse, all without Jigen's knowledge. Not only is he a scum, but also a rat. The whole reason Viktor is an inner in the first place is actually due to a large donation of money he and his company made to Kara, so that Viktor could commence his quest for power and to restore his damaged body, gaining immortality by joining the organization. This idiot was the one who helped fund Jigen to purchase children like Kawaki, which made him find the vessel in the first place. We were told that Kara had enough money to buy a whole country. Viktor would do all that he could to try and preserve his life for as long as possible, even getting a cursed seal which was supposed to help, but instead resulted in the opposite, where it deteriorated his body further. Hence why he tried to create a god tree, as he feared that his body wouldn't last long enough to even see Kara's goal come into fruition. He did end up making the god tree through a remnant of Hashirama's cell and a god tree branch from the 4th war. He sacrificed all of his employees to do so. This life force created a chakra fruit which he consumed. But then Orochimaru gave his 2 cents, stating that a mortal cannot eat a chakra fruit, you big dummy. After having his plan foiled by Team 7 and Orochimaru, he began losing the trust of Kara, resulting in him blaming the whole thing on Deepa so he would avoid execution, giving him time to start a new plan. One which involved him kidnapping the vessel in order to gain one over Kara, putting himself in a dominant position. Ultimately, he failed in all of his endeavors, being killed by Kashin Koji. Now, he may not look like it, but Viktor is actually a very capable fighter. This old geezer possesses all of the elemental nature types, along with having sensational regenerative capabilities, highly deceptive speed, and a walking stick. Seriously, he did fend off against Mugino and Konohamaru with his gosh damn cane. I know that doesn't sound like a big feat, but come on guys, Konohamaru is a top level Konoha Jonin. Who am I kidding? Anyway guys, however, the most impressive feat of them all has got to be how Viktor went head to head against Orochimaru, managing to regrow even his head during his fight, and could also control his severed limbs even after he lost them. Viktor also manifested 2 other arms which possessed great physical strength, holding him upright if needed, as well as allowing him to perform hand signs mid-combat. In the end, his age caught up to him, the one thing he was fighting so hard to combat. Yes, his old age deteriorated his body and senses, making him unaware of the assassin in his presence. Oh boy, next up is Boro! Boro has had the least screen time that an opinion can hardly even be formed about him. He's just sort of there. The anime is going to explore his cult of followers and his character a lot more than the manga did, so hopefully we'll get more information about him later on. But what we do know from the manga, like Viktor, Boro is dead. But before he did die though, he was actually the leader of his own cult following. Unfortunately, we know very little about this cult other than its existence really, and the fact that it's its hideout is in a very far off region covered in snow. It was at this location Boro was ordered to destroy Amado's cyborgs, except one, at least to our knowledge, who he ended up becoming infatuated with. But more on her next, so stick around. Boro was in love with himself. Despite being a member of Kara, he would put his own interests first, as seen when he straight up refused orders that was given to him by Amado, Jigen's right hand man. He also did not turn up to scheduled meetings and inspections. He openly viewed himself as a man chosen by God, who he knew to be Isshiki. Now as with Jigen, he was devoted to Kara's goal and was uninterested in other matters such as Mitsuki's attempt to attack him, even being so disinterested to willing to let him escape if he just left him alone. But through his fight with Team 7 and Kawaki, he became extremely grateful for Boruto's status as Isshiki Ōtsutsuki's vessel, desiring to capture him for Kara's benefit. But when it comes to his overall strength, being an inner of Kara, he was noted as stronger than fellow inner Kara member Delta. He was suggested to be the one to face Naruto next after he defeated Delta in order to retrieve Kawaki from him. Kawaki even claims that in some ways he's worse than Jigen. Boro is able to use fire and water release. By combining the first two, he can use lava release to create a potent acid which is easily able to melt shurikens. And with his water release, he can produce surging walls which was shown to easily repel Mitsuki's lightning release, his snake lightning, and Sarada's fire release Phoenix Sage. Also, Boro can utilize yin release along with communicate with others via genjutsu. Now the biggest take we have on him is through his fight with Team 7. In fairness to him, Boro did have one of the coolest and unique ninja tool techniques we've seen in Boruto, whereas the others just have body altering abilities, turning limbs into weapons and so on and so forth. Boro is able to release a deadly toxin virus, which when used together with his dark mist jutsu allows him to make an airborne virus which infects his foes, paralyzing them. Due to this being a physical virus and not a jutsu which uses chakra, it cannot be absorbed by karma, and with the help of the dark mist, it can't be blown away either as it's unaffected by the wind style jutsu, meaning the only way to survive this attack is by using antibodies for the toxin, which only Boro seemed to have flowing through his body in order to keep him safe from his own attack. Like other Kara inner members who Amado has worked on, Boro has a core, and this core is essentially what keeps him functioning. You destroy that, it destroys what makes Boro such a threat. The thing is with Boro, it's not as easy as just finding the core and destroying it, as he's able to freely move his core around his body, keeping it out of danger. Once again, much like the other inners, this scientific ninja tool allows for frightening levels of regeneration, even regenerating the upper half of his body within a matter of seconds. But this comes at a cost. If you do manage to destroy this core, all hell breaks loose in Boro's body. Unable to keep stabilizing without a core, will violently mutate to the point where he's hardly even recognizable as a human. Whilst undergoing this transformation of sort, Boro met his end, unfortunately, being on the other end of a rather angry Boroshiki who had a taste for blood. I think we all know how that one ends. Anyway guys, as I said earlier, what we really need is for the Boruto anime to throw Boro an extra lifeline like it did with Viktor to try and add something to his character. Next up is one of my all-time favorite Kara member, Amado. This dude is one of Boruto's most convoluted characters. It's hard to tell exactly what his intentions are, but what we do know is that he is the former head of the Kara Research and Development Division. He's also the only inner member with no visual face tattoo depicting a Roman numeral. This brought up the idea that he could be the actual original leader of Kara and worked on his subjects, modifying them for his own needs before the organization was taken over by Isshiki. Isshiki did mention a wish and offered something to Amado in return for completing the vessel in chapter 39, which adds a significant clue to this idea. Along with that, we do have to think about the idea that why does everyone have a label from 1 to 10 except for Amado, and the fact is that Delta has the number 1 where Jigen is numbered 4. This actually brings things to light. Possible Delta was the one that Amado worked on first, and then after Jigen joined the cause, ultimately changed the fundamentals for this organization. Moving away from our speculations, Amado is indirectly responsible for the strength of Kara thanks to his work he performed on their bodies, turning them into living ninja tools, which essentially turned the inner of Kara into near Otsutsuki's level super soldiers, which he could also bring back to life by regenerating the brains as seen with Deepa's dismembered head. Amado's intelligence goes far beyond playing around with a few cells. He even managed to invent a medicine which had the capabilities of rendering a Byakugan useless in order to hinder Isshiki and any other member of the clan. However, it is stated that these pills could also help pause or fight back against the Otsutsukification fabrication process, as the Byakugan is of Otsutsuki's origin, therefore carrying the DNA. For instance, Boruto, if he takes this pill, will be targeting the Otsutsuki DNA within himself, similar to how chemotherapy works against cancer cells. But instead of destroying these cells, these pills just weakens, possibly stopping them from multiplying. Hence, Amado explained this wouldn't stop the Otsutsuki fabrication process in all, but slow it down or put it on hold. Amado also worked incredibly closely with Jigen, offering his obscene level of scientific intelligence to help Isshiki get his hand on a new vessel. However, this was all in order to gain both trust and intel on the Otsutsukis. His goal all along was to betray Kara and defeat Jigen, the vessel of Isshiki. We learned that Amado formulated many plans to achieve this and even managed to create an array of cyborgs stronger than Jigen. But that plan was short-lived, as all of the other anti-Jigen cyborgs he made had been ordered to be destroyed, as Jigen himself recognized the power in which these cyborgs possessed. Best known to Amado though, there was one who managed to survive this, but again, more on that later on. Now, there was an idea on why didn't Amado just order the cyborgs to kill Jigen right away. To be honest, there isn't a for sure answer. However, more than likely, Amado still required intel about the Karma and the Otsutsukis, so he had to go with a stealthy approach, where in the end, Amado was forced into settling on our boy from earlier, Kashin Koji, to be his partner in crime during his coup d'etat. Regardless, from his time spent in Kara, Amado became extremely knowledgeable on the Otsutsuki clan, to the point of detailing how to actually kill one. Once the time was right, Amado activated the next stage of his plan, defecting to Konoha. He chose this place as his destination, as he knew that would be his best bet at survival due to the protection given to him by Naruto and Sasuke, as betraying Kara comes with a death wish. During his time in the Leaf Village, Amado reveals he had a daughter who died 12 years ago. This means she roughly died during the time Boruto was born. On that note, there is a common theory alluding to Delta being his daughter, and he somehow preserved her consciousness into a drone, placing it into a cyborg version of herself to inhabit. However, after the revelation of Eida, the theory quickly shifted to make her the revived cyborg daughter. Now, moving past that theory, at a first glance, Amado may seem somewhat understanding and polite, but the truth is, this man doesn't care about anyone. The only person he shows any compassion towards is Kawaki, but even that seems kind of disingenuous. I mean, this is the same dude who formed a long-lasting relationship with an alien, creating a cult which murdered children, birthing a clone of a dead legendary ninja in Jiraiya, just then to send him to his death, all while telling him he was the key to defeating Isshiki. He does what he wants or needs to do to get his mission across. Although it was a bluff, he even threatened to blow up Shikadai so he would gain access to Konoha. Seriously, there's something not right about this dude, and I can't shake off the feeling that he is keeping his true intentions a secret for now, and whatever they may be, I doubt they are good. However, what we do know for certain is that Amado wants to get rid of the whole Otsutsuki race. Okay, so before we move on to our favorite boys, let me finally address the cyborgs Amado created. As I mentioned earlier, these things were said to be so powerful that they could even beat Jigen, which is why he ordered them to be terminated. But to put this into perspective, this is the same Jigen who bodied Sasuke in Naruto 1v2. Obviously, our guy was juiced up with Jubi chakra, but still, having created a cyborg stronger than this Jigen is mental. Oh, and those who don't understand what a cyborg is, well, they are basically humans who have gone through extensive modification to the point of becoming human robots, or in a more scientific term, a being with both organic and biomechatronics body parts, but in this case being modified with scientific ninja tools. Now, though they have all said to have been destroyed, we find out that one of them at least survived, that being Eida. We already knew that Delta is somewhat a cyborg and likely Amado made her too, but having a cyborg stronger than Jigen alive seems crazy. The way Eida even survived has got to do with her abilities. For starters, she has the ability to make pretty much anyone fall in love with her. Boy, girl, young, old, it doesn't matter. As long as they aren't blood relatives or Otsutsukis, it's pretty much a done deal. This isn't temporary either, like it goes on till the person dies. It's nuts. And this is actually how she managed to stay alive, by trapping Boro, who was ordered to destroy her, into a state of mental slavery out of love. However, due to this revelation, and as we mentioned in one of our recent videos, we believe she might have been Amado's daughter. She has a grudge on him for taking away her sense of ordinary love, meaning she doesn't know whether she has ever actually experienced true love and actually liked anyone or not. And all of this because of how he modified her and gave her new abilities. The reason reason we speculate that she is related to Amado is because if she was modified by him and wanted revenge, her abilities should have worked on him like pretty much straight away, where more than likely it didn't, as he didn't die or committed suicide or along those lines. Having said that, this ability has cursed her of being trapped in an illusion of experiencing love, but as Boruto and Kawaki have Otsutsuki DNA, her interest has peaked as she hopes she may be able to find true love with one of them, especially Kawaki. Now on top of all of that, Eida can also see and look back at any event that happened in the past up to the day she was born, but not a second before that. She can look at current events as they are happening, but she cannot see the future. This is basically a very advanced clairvoyance ability, and plus we don't know her combat abilities yet. Knowing that if she is stronger than Jigen, it can't be just regarding to these two techniques. I'm pretty sure that in hand-to-hand combat she must be a monster. Next up, we have the best character in the whole gosh damn show, Naruto's favorite and adopted son, Kawaki. Kawaki has honestly been saving grace of this anime and manga, and has kind of been carrying it on his back since his introduction. Kawaki was the son of a veteran from the 4th Great Ninja War, a man who had become a drunken abusive father to his kid in absolutely no time due to PTSD, which caused him to turn to alcohol. As a result, he would make Kawaki work hard all day, chopping up wood to sell all so he could buy his father booze, whilst his father of course sat around and did nothing all day. This went on until eventually Jigen showed up out of the blue after Delta had picked up a sample of Kawaki's blood, which she had gotten from a skirmish she had gotten into. Jigen offered an unbelievable amount of money to his father and ended up buying Kawaki, ultimately becoming his new father. Jigen was actually more abusive than Kawaki's last father, beating him relentlessly during their training sessions whilst the kid couldn't keep up with him, and actually risking killing him at a chance of branding a karma seal on his palm, which is a process that had killed numerous other children who weren't compatible. One day Kawaki was able to escape after a Kara airship crashed with him inside. After fighting the puppets who was guarding him, he was found by Boruto and his team lying unconscious in the middle of the forest. Once he had awoken, he had it out with a Kara altar named Garo, where a boy Kawaki brutally murdered him, activating his karma, which resonated with Boruto, who was nearby. Fainting once again, he was taken in by Konoha. From there, Naruto, the 7th Hokage himself, let Kawaki stay with him and his family. This may have seemed dumb on his part, considering he killed someone as powerful and as dangerous as Garo, and with zero mercy at that, but it's actually quite poetic, considering Naruto wasn't all that different when he was a kid. He just didn't know how to harness that village destroying power he had inside of him like Kawaki does, yet he turned out to be a good person in the end, a great one even to that. Other Jinchurikis like Gaara is also quite a comparison. But anyways, as time went on, Kawaki got to know the Uzumaki family, became friends with Boruto, and learnt a lot about being a kind, well-mannered person who fights for the sake of those they love, and eventually, as we mentioned way at the beginning of the video, killed Isshiki Ōtsutsuki, the man that caused them so much pain and suffering. But with that, let's break down what makes Kawaki such a badass. For starters, this dude was able to go head to toe with a guy with serious battle experience and the injuries to prove it. As Garo was missing his chin, which was Kawaki's fault, as well as both his hands, having to have them replaced with these weird pincher laser cannon thingies, these things weren't just there to make him look cool either. They could dish out some serious firepower, and yet Kawaki, with the help of his modified body, courtesy to Amado, was able to block them all. He is also shown to have full grasp on how to utilize his body, even flexing during the fight by doing shit like this. He can also create blades out of his skin, blades that would pierce any regular ninja without fail. Although it did prove useless against Garo, cause that dude is a tank. However, it all changed when Kawaki's karma activated and awakened his full battle potential. This gave him the power to completely obliterate Garo from existence. And moving to the topic of Kawaki's karma, he has not just been shown to be well versed in it, but had also trained Boruto on how to use it. During their spar, even though Kawaki did not know how to use chakra and isn't really a shinobi, went head to toe with Boruto, who is considered a genius by his own rights. He later was able to even tank a hit from Delta that was said to be so powerful it could probably kill the Hokage. Kawaki has also shown his quick adaptability and teamworking skills when he teamed up with Boruto, Sarada and Mitsuki against Boro. But most importantly, Kawaki showed another level to his skills once he had mastered the shadow clone technique, which was obviously taught to him by his foster father Naruto. Yes, Kawaki using the shadow clone technique was able to outsmart Isshiki, ending up killing him. Overall, this showcases Kawaki's ability and potential as a shinobi. After some more training, I'm pretty sure Kawaki will be master at using chakra. Kawaki will eventually learn more techniques. At the moment, we do know he has fire release nature type, where he could possibly have more. And again, we do know his potential from the future cutscene of him fighting Boruto. The next person I'm going to explain is none other than Code, Jigen's #1 simp. I mean loyal follower. He is currently the last active inner member of Kara and inheritor of the Otsutsuki will, and with Jigen gone, Amado and KK defecting, Boro dying, Delta being deactivated, Code is basically the head honcho of Kara. But as we mentioned at the start of this video, the goal of Kara and now Code is to become the embodiment of a true god, constantly evolving by absorbing the chakra fruits throughout time. An illustration of this being is somewhat something beyond comprehending, a being with countless dojutsus, including the pure eye. But before I get into this, let's get some background information on this dude. So around the time Kawaki was brought into Kara, Code was amongst the 15 candidates alongside Kawaki to become Isshiki's next vessel and the karma holder. But as we all know, Kawaki was the only one that managed to successfully inherit the karma seal and become a vessel. Every other candidate had all failed the experiment, passing away as a result. All but Code. Despite being a dud, Code received a white karma seal which granted him the pure Otsutsuki power but doesn't contain the backup data of Isshiki. With this power of the white karma and the modification Amado did to his body, Code is said to be way stronger than Jigen. But as we found out in chapter 56, anyone whose power exceeds Jigen would be swiftly disposed of in order to prevent any usurpers from seizing control of Kara. Code was the only exception to this rule due to his undying adoration for Jigen, which often made him jealous of Kawaki since he became the perfect vessel over him. So instead of killing Code, Amado was ordered to place limiters in Code's body to prevent him from reaching his maximum potential should he have gone rogue, something that only Amado himself can remove. Now let's go over some of Code's abilities and how stacked he is compared to the rest of the Kara members. Since Code belongs to the inner member of Kara, he has been pretty powerful given his position and the fact he was so busted that Jigen made Amado put power limiters on him, shouts a massive statement that Code is actually the strongest amongst all of the Kara members. This would even mean that he could defeat Naruto and Sasuke in a 2v1 battle even before the nerfs occurred. In the terms of his ability, due to his body modification, he's able to transform his fingers into claws, much like Wolverine. These claws seem to have the ability to stretch out black bands that matches the one Code wears on his face. It appears that Code can use these black bands as a way to transport himself from his location to where these bands are positioned. This ability seems very similar to Minato's and Tobirama's flying Raijin Jutsu. However, we don't know the extent of this ability. It's possible that it goes much beyond dimensions, explaining how Code can travel between the dimension that the Ten-Tail is being held at. Now in chapter 56 we see the use of this ability, and with the display of it we can see the clear difference between it and the flying Raijin. It's clear that these black bands do not just create a point of teleportation, rather it creates a dimensional rift like that of Obito's Kumui. Now coming to Code's karma, Amado does explain that it's actually a very extremely rare case. He goes on to say that Code's body somehow retained the karma aspect of being a weapon. The Otsutsuki DNA that was implanted was the base ability, filtering out all the BS that would have come with it if it was from a specific Otsutsuki clan member. Due to inheriting this white karma, it pushed Code's combat abilities to exceed even Jigen's. Are you guys still confused? Well, think about it like this. Code's karma, due to incompatibility, wasn't able to download any of Isshiki's data. So after his body was successful in the experiment, his karma became an empty drive. Think of it like this. Boruto and Kawaki's karma is like a USB with the Otsutsuki DNA DNA data. The karma then extracts this data into the vessel over time. Code's karma is an empty USB with some base settings, with the ability of extraction along with other features the karma usually has. And it's even possible that it has other data inside of it. This data might have been high affinity in combat, and any other data which would have made him a pure Otsutsuki can be obtained over time. So when Isshiki orders him to eat chakra fruits, he tells him, look, you can get all the data from the fruits in your karma drive and become an Otsutsuki continuing on their will. Remember, Amado said that the chakra fruits has all the DNA, nutrients and life energy of the inhabitants of that said planet. Otsutsukis take that data to evolve themselves and get stronger. Code can eventually become a god Otsutsuki that has over 100 pure eyes going from planet to planet, even taking the records of all life, including the essence of Isshiki Ōtsutsuki. This is why in chapter 55, Isshiki explains to Code that if he were to consume the divine fruit, he would be reborn as a true Otsutsuki. Once he has done consuming the fruit, Isshiki ordered Code to continue consuming planet after planet until he becomes an existence uncontested by all life in the universe, a kami. That is what it means to be an Otsutsuki. They are the embodiment of forever trying to climb this intergalactic food chain, consuming until there is nothing left to consume. During this moment of chapter 55, we got to see a first glance of a possible Otsutsuki king, which this being is rocking multiple and countless pure eyes. So regardless if Code actually manages to get to this level, this potential and revelation gives us a hint that an Otsutsuki God already exists perhaps. And Boruto, to end this cycle, might have to defeat this Otsutsuki king by, of course, using his own dojutsu pure eye. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think that will happen in the end of the series? Will this shit go intergalactic? Don't forget Kishimoto did take over and he did drop Samurai 8, which was all about intergalactic space. But that's it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to smash that like button and ding that notification bell to stay updated with all our content. With that guys, we'll catch you lot till next time.